Alrighty everyone, we're just a little over a month away from the official release of Mando Season 3 that's really going to evolve the characters of Din, Grogu, Bo-Katan, and even others out there that's going to come in as a big surprise. And given that we have a lot of things on the horizon by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, with shows out there like the Ahsoka series and Mando Season 4 and a whole lot more that have yet to have been announced that will be at this year's Star Wars Celebration and D23 events. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. Now, one thing about all of this is that we have Jon and Dave really working hand in hand with George Lucas to really kind of propel the Star Wars universe in the right path, given that a lot of Legends is of course coming our way, a lot of great material from the Thrawn trilogy books, a Dark Empire lineup, as well as Shadows of the Empire will be playing major roles in upcoming Star Wars TV shows and other projects. Now that brings us to what Bob Iger recently did with Kathleen Kennedy and how it does have a very big impact on the operations over at Lucasfilm, exactly what's happening with Jon Favreau, stuff like that. We're going to be diving into every single specific detail about what Iger recently did by firing her in a very specific way that's opening up the gateway to possibilities. So this really is the biggest move of all this year by Bob Iger, and it's something that Bob Chapek, by the way, was also doing with a couple of other things before in the past, and we'll explain more about that later down the road here. But with that being said, we know that everything related to Kathleen Kennedy has been very problematic for the past couple of years. Now, as of now, Bob Iger is having a tough time with both the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, since Kathleen Kennedy has been creating problems for both productions. Now, it's noted that currently Disney CEO Bob Iger made the ultimate decision to make drastic changes behind the scenes, involving Kathleen Kennedy by firing her from a big Star Wars production as a producer that was going to negatively impact the marketing of the series. Now, this comes first as an attempt to favor Jon Favreau as a producer, where Iger fired Kennedy from The Mandalorian Season 4 from marketing the show in any way and is replacing her with Jon Favreau now instead. Now, this decision also comes from the fact that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to make Mando 4 very low budget in comparison to Season 3 and smaller scale without any kind of cameos like Ahsoka, Luke, Ezra, and more. Now, let me just pause here. Now, the fact that she wanted to do away with the cameos like Luke, Ahsoka, Ezra, and others, it just goes to show you that Kathleen Kennedy wants to take the fun out of a show like Mando. And it's not all about the cameos, I understand that. Let's be real here. It may sound like, the way I'm saying it, that cameos are a must. It's not necessarily a must, but it does make it all the more entertaining, and it really kind of gives it more rewatch value. Those surprises that you get in each couple of episodes, it's almost like a formula or a format that Jon and Dave created, in an almost accidental way. I would really like to put it that way. These cameos that show up as a big surprise are really like a formula now by Jon and Dave. It's almost how you expect their shows to happen. So, Mando Season 3 is going to have a handful of cameos, and Mando 4 as well as Ahsoka. And it's going to be characters that you have never either A, seen before in live-action form, or B, have not seen in a very long time. And that's what really impacts the audience and surprises them. So, the fact that she, number one, wanted to make it smaller scale, number two, wanted to dial back on the budgeting, and number three, take away all the cameos, that just goes to show you that she just does not care about quality and just pure entertainment. Moving on. Now, of course, something that Iger knew would not fly with the fans were all of the above. There were many arguments between Kennedy and Favreau beforehand, of course, about making Mando 4 smaller scale. And now, given that Favreau has been getting more privileges over both the marketing and finances of some of the shows, he is replacing her and will be making the calls on the budgeting of Mando Season 4 and its marketing style for the fans. So keep in mind now, given that Favreau is taking over as a producer, Kathleen Kennedy has been fired from Mando 4 as a producer, and she's pretty much getting ready to get her, way out of Lucasfilm by Disney by this August entirely. The thing that I like so much about this is that Mando 4 is getting saved. It almost kind of met its demise by meeting a very low budget, really kind of suffering with a smaller scale format, even smaller scale than Mando Season 1. Really treating it like a very tight story, not really a broad story. So when you look at stuff like that, it really just goes to show you that Kathleen Kennedy plays things safe. She does not want to make things fun. She does not want to dedicate things to George Lucas. She wants nothing to do with characters like Ahsoka, Ezra, and all the characters that we have seen before in Rebels or Legends. And that just goes to show you that Kennedy likes to promote real stale content, right? And that's the problem with her, and that's what Bob Iger is beginning to realize. And that's why himself and the Disney board members are getting ready to kick her out, fire her entirely from Lucasfilm by this August. And we've talked about this, and we'll go over some of the more details about that in a second. But obviously, this is a big deal. The fact that now we have Jon Favreau taking over as a producer for Mando 4 is a very big deal. And it just goes to show you that he is getting more and more privileges over at Lucasfilm, where now he basically is the Lucasfilm president without having that title. It's a very interesting thing that they did. Now, next up, alright, now this is, of course, planned to happen to more and more shows down the road before they fire her entirely by this August, as they have plans so far to replace her with producer David Heyman of the Harry Potter films. This is set to be Iger's top decision for who will replace her prematurely, as long as, of course, this actually remains for Disney. Now, the thing is, initially they wanted Ron Howard to become the new president of Lucasfilm to take over Kennedy. Unfortunately, he got tied up with scheduling and with a couple of TV shows out there and some other, movies and stuff around the lines. So now they're looking at David Heyman. That's their top choice. The guy, the producer of all the Harry Potter films that he was involved in. And he's also a big Star Wars fan, believe it or not. So that's good news. And I think that's the type of person that you need to run Lucasfilm. You need somebody that loves the brand, that cherishes it, that's very passionate about what Star Wars is and what it's all about and what it's always been about. It's a soap opera at the end of the day. A space opera, as George Lucas likes to call it. That's what it really is, at least in the cinematic form, it is. And so, it really needs that respect, it really needs that vision of George Lucas to remain intact. So, overall, guys, I'm very intrigued to hear what you guys have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.